Chapter 1, First Contact, Last Stand. The crimson sun bled across the jagged peaks of Kepler 186f2, casting long, skeletal shadows across the fortified human base, a lonely outpost clinging to the moon's harsh, volcanic landscape. Inside the command center, Captain Eva Rostova, her face etched with fatigue but her eyes sharp and unwavering, stared at the holographic projection. It displayed a chaotic ballet of destruction, Xylos Swarm ships, sleek, chitinous vessels that seemed to ride with malevolent intelligence, tearing through the base's outer defenses. "Report!" Eva barked, her voice cutting through the cacophony of alarms. Lieutenant Jax, his face pale, stammered, They're everywhere. Our point defense cannons are overloaded. Casualties are mounting." Eva gripped the armrest of her chair, knuckles white. The Xylos Swarm. First contact had been anything but friendly. These insectoid horrors, with their hive-mind collective and terrifying bioweapons, had proven far more formidable than any intelligence report had suggested. The holographic display flickered, showing a devastating energy blast obliterating a section of the outer wall. A shudder ran through the command center. "Damage control teams to Sector Gamma immediately," Eva ordered, her voice steady despite the turmoil. "Medical teams, prioritize the wounded. Get me a status report on the energy shields." A gruff voice crackled over the comms. "Captain, the main generator's offline. We're losing shields fast." "Damn it!" Eva slammed her fist on the console. This was worse than she'd anticipated. Their initial assessment had underestimated the Xylos' firepower. The energy shields, their last line of defense, were failing. Suddenly, the command center lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness punctuated by the red emergency lights. The air vibrated with the thunderous impact of Xylos ships crashing into the base. Screams echoed through the comms. "Report!" Eva yelled, her voice strained. "Jax, status." We've lost contact with Sector Alpha. Sector Beta is under heavy attack. We're overwhelmed." Jax's voice was barely audible, laced with fear. Eva felt a cold dread grip her heart. This wasn't just a battle, it was a massacre. But even in the face of annihilation, a flicker of defiance ignited within her. She wouldn't let humanity be erased from this remote corner of the galaxy without a fight. "Secure the remaining sectors," she commanded, her voice regaining its steely edge. "Focus fire on their bioweapon platforms. We need to buy ourselves time." Her eyes, however, fell on the holographic display. A critical node in their communication network was now offline. The strategic advantage they'd painstakingly built was crumbling. This was not just a battle for Kepler 186f2, it was a fight for survival. And right now, they were losing. The weight of humanity's future pressed down on her shoulders as the relentless assault continued. Chapter 2, Desperate Measures. The emergency lights cast a sickly red glow on the faces of the survivors huddled in the command center's dimly lit remains. The air hung heavy with the smell of ozone and fear. Outside, the relentless assault of the Xylos Swarm continued, a terrifying symphony of explosions and the chittering, clicking sounds of the alien insects. Eva Rostova, her face streaked with grime and determination, surveyed the damage. The main generator was destroyed, the energy shields were down, and communication with much of the base was lost. The situation was dire, but not hopeless. "Engineering report," she demanded, her voice sharp despite the exhaustion clawing at her. A young engineer, barely out of his teens, nervously stepped forward. "Captain, we've managed to reroute power to critical systems, but it's unstable. We're operating at minimal capacity. Can we restore the main generator?" The engineer shook his head. "No. The damage is too extensive. We'll need specialized parts, and those are." He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. They were light years from any supply lines. Eva closed her eyes briefly, battling the despair threatening to engulf her. She had to think, to find a solution. They couldn't rely on conventional strategies. They needed an unconventional edge. She recalled a briefing about a peculiar vulnerability in Xylos bioweapons, a sensitivity to a specific frequency. A long shot, but it might be their only chance. Dr. Ares, Eva called out. Status report on the captured Xylos bioweapon sample. Dr. Ares, a wiry scientist with haunted eyes, hurried forward. Captain, we've managed to analyze a fragment. It confirms the sensitivity to high-frequency sonic waves. But? He hesitated. The frequency needs to be extremely precise, and we'd need to create a device to transmit it, something we're not equipped to build here. A glint of hope sparked in Eva's eyes. We'll improvise, she declared. Sergeant Miller, assemble a team. We're going to create that device. Use whatever salvaged parts you can find. I want it ready within the hour. The next hour became a blur of frantic activity. The command center transformed into a makeshift workshop, a chaotic symphony of sparks, hammering, and muttered instructions. Sergeant Miller, a grizzled veteran with grease smudged across his face, proved to be remarkably resourceful, cobbling together a jury-rigged sonic emitter from salvaged components and scavenged materials. Finally, the device was ready. A crude contraption, but it might just be their salvation. As they tested the device, a ripple of relief ran through the room when the projected frequency successfully mimicked the one that would disrupt the bioweapon's functionality. Let's pray it works, Eva muttered, a sliver of hope piercing the overwhelming despair. The odds were still stacked against them, but they had bought themselves a fighting chance. This makeshift weapon offered a sliver of hope in the darkness. Their fight for survival was far from over. But for now, a small victory had been snatched from the jaws of defeat. Chapter 3: The Xylos Weakness. The makeshift sonic emitter hummed ominously in the center of the makeshift lab, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds. Eva Rostova, her face grim but resolute, addressed the small team gathered around it. The device is ready, she announced, her voice low and steady. But deploying it directly against the swarm is suicidal. We need to get it inside their hive. Sergeant Miller, his face etched with grim determination, spoke up. Captain, that's a one-way trip. The hive is swarming with Xylos. We'll be lucky to survive. I know the risks, Eva replied, her gaze unwavering. But it's our best chance. We need someone skilled in infiltration, someone who can move undetected. Corporal Reyes, are you up for it? Corporal Reyes, a young woman known for her stealth and tactical prowess, stepped forward. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with a fierce determination. Yes, Captain. I'm ready. Eva nodded. Good. You'll have a support team. Lieutenant Jax will coordinate comms. Dr. Ares will provide technical guidance. Your mission is simple: get the device close to the Xylos Queen, activate it, and get out. If you fail, we all fail. Reyes nodded grimly. The weight of the mission, and the potential for failure, was palpable. The very survival of the human colony hung in the balance. The next few hours were spent meticulously preparing. Reyes was fitted with specialized equipment, a mixture of scavenged technology and repurposed tools. They reviewed maps, identified potential entry points into the hive, and planned escape routes. Every detail was scrutinized, every possible contingency considered. Remember, Eva stressed, this is a high-risk operation. Your lives are paramount, but the success of this mission hinges on your actions. Be smart, be quick, and come back alive. As Reyes prepared to infiltrate the Xylos hive, a palpable tension filled the room. Every eye was on her. This was a desperate gamble, their only shot against an enemy far stronger and numerous. The success of this mission lay on the courage and skills of a single soldier. The weight of the moment was almost unbearable as Reyes disappeared into the darkness, a small figure against the vast, alien landscape. The hum of the sonic emitter, a fragile beacon of hope, echoed in the silent command center, a reminder of the precarious balance on which their survival hung. Now, all they could do was wait, listen, and pray for a miracle. The tension was a living thing, suffocating and desperate. Eva watched the comm screen. There would be no further contact until the infiltration was completed. This moment was all about Reyes, her courage, her skill. This was the difference between hope and annihilation. Chapter 4: Infiltration. The Xylos hive pulsed with a sickly, bioluminescent light, a monstrous organism teeming with life, or rather, with the relentless, mindless efficiency of the insect swarm. Corporal Reyes, cloaked in darkness and moving with the grace of a phantom, navigated the labyrinthine tunnels. Each step was measured, each breath controlled. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence. Her comms crackled to life. Lieutenant Jax's voice, tight with apprehension, whispered in her ear. "Reyes, are you reading? Report your status." "Jax, I'm inside," Reyes replied, her voice low. "The hive is overwhelming. It's like navigating a living nightmare. I've reached the perimeter of the inner chamber." "Be careful, Reyes," Jax warned. "We're detecting increased Xylos activity around your position." "Do you have visual on the Queen?" "Negative, Jax. I can't see anything yet. The air is thick, suffocating. I'm moving toward the largest chamber in the heart of the hive, based on our intel. It should be the Queen's chamber." The journey was fraught with peril. Reyes had to slip past countless Xylos, their chitinous bodies clicking and scraping against the tunnel walls. She used the shadows to her advantage, blending seamlessly with the darkness and employing her years of training to avoid detection. Several times, she came dangerously close to being discovered, only narrowly escaping with her life. Suddenly, she stumbled upon a cavernous chamber, pulsating with an eerie, otherworldly glow. In the center, upon a raised platform of chitinous material, rested the Xylos Queen, a gargantuan insect, larger than anything Reyes had imagined, its body a grotesque fusion of flesh and technology. The sight sent a shiver down her spine. Reyes carefully placed the sonic emitter near the Queen, making sure not to trigger any alarms. The Queen's many eyes twitched. A horrifying sound echoed through the chamber. A massive claw descended towards Reyes. "Jax, deploying the device," Reyes whispered urgently into her comm. "It's working. I'm getting out." She triggered the emitter. A high-pitched shriek, almost beyond human hearing, filled the chamber. The Xylos around her convulsed, their movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. Chaos erupted in the hive. The Queen roared in a sound that vibrated through Reyes' very bones. Reyes bolted, escaping into the maze of tunnels. Behind her, the hive dissolved into panicked confusion. The high-frequency sonic wave was shattering their hive minds' coordinated order. The Queen's deafening roar was the sound of their control fracturing. As Reyes fought her way back to the surface, she realized that some of the bioweapons' control had been lost. She was not safe. But the odds were now ever so slightly in humanity's favor. The desperate gamble had paid off, at least for now. Chapter 5: The Gambit begins. The surface of Kepler 186 F2 was a chaotic battlefield, a maelstrom of fire and destruction. But the tide was beginning to turn. The sonic emitter's disruption of the Xylos hive mind was spreading, creating disarray amongst the swarming insects. Their once coordinated attacks were faltering, becoming fragmented and disorganized. In the battered command center, Eva Rostova watched the holographic display with a mixture of disbelief and grim satisfaction. The chaos within the Xylos hive was visibly impacting their assault on the base. "Report," she barked, her voice hoarse but filled with a newfound urgency. Lieutenant Jax, his face reflecting a mixture of relief and awe, reported, "Captain, their attacks are weakening. Their coordination is completely gone. We're seeing significant drops in their firepower." "Good," Eva replied, her voice taut with controlled excitement. "This is our chance. Prepare for a counter-offensive. All available units, Sector Beta, move into position. We push them back now." The counter-offensive was a desperate, brutal struggle. Human forces, bolstered by the Xylos disarray, launched a series of coordinated attacks, exploiting the gaps in the alien swarm's defenses. The battles raged across the moon's desolate landscape, a clash of desperate humans fighting for survival against a tide of disoriented, but still formidable, insectoids. The air crackled with energy weapons fire, the ground trembled under the weight of explosions. Human ingenuity and courage were pitted against the Xylos' overwhelming numbers and advanced bioweapons. But the advantage, however slight, was now with humanity. Eva, leading from the front, directed the attacks with her characteristic brilliance. Her unconventional tactics, born of desperation and necessity, were proving devastatingly effective. She pushed her forces to their limits, knowing that failure meant annihilation. She directed their attacks on the remaining strongholds and guided the artillery fire to maximize the effect of the weakened Xylos. The fight was far from over, but the tide had irrevocably turned. The Xylos Swarm, once an unstoppable force, was now reeling, weakened and vulnerable. The human spirit, bruised but unbowed, had found a chink in the armor of their terrifying enemy. Hope, fragile yet potent, bloomed amidst the carnage. The seemingly impossible had become possible, all thanks to a desperate gamble and unwavering human resilience. The relentless assault was finally being met with decisive counterattack. This was not yet victory, but the start of a fight back. Chapter 6: Turning the Tide. The battle raged across the scarred landscape of Kepler 186f2. The once unstoppable Xylos Swarm, weakened by the sonic emitter's disruption, was now fighting a desperate, disorganized retreat. Human forces, emboldened by their newfound advantage, pressed their attack with renewed ferocity. Eva Rostova, her face grim but determined, directed the assault from a makeshift command post perched atop a rocky outcrop. She watched as her troops, exhausted but resolute, pushed back the alien horde, reclaiming lost territory inch by agonizing inch. "Report from Sector Beta," she yelled over the roar of battle. Lieutenant Jax's voice crackled over the comms. "Captain, we've secured Sector Beta. Casualties are heavy, but we're holding the line. We're pushing towards the main Xylos staging area." "Good," Eva replied, her voice strained but firm. "Keep pushing. Don't let them regroup. Focus fire on their remaining bioweapon emplacements." The fight was brutal, a desperate hand-to-hand struggle against a foe that, despite its disarray, still possessed a terrifying strength and ferocity. Human soldiers fought with a courage born of desperation, their every action fueled by the will to survive. Sergeant Miller, his body battered and bruised, led a charge against a group of Xylos, his weapon spitting fire. He fought like a man possessed, his every movement a testament to his unwavering resolve. He saw several of his men go down, their bodies lifeless on the ground. Rage filled his heart. He would not let them die in vain. In the midst of the chaos, a horrifying sight appeared on the horizon, a massive Xylos dreadnought, emerging from the shadows, its terrifying presence overshadowing everything else. Its energy cannons began to charge, promising devastation. "Captain, we've got a major problem," Jax's voice was laced with alarm. "A Xylos dreadnought. It's about to unleash a devastating attack. We're not equipped to stop that kind of firepower." Eva's eyes narrowed. This was a turning point. The dreadnought, if left unchecked, could annihilate the entire base and wipe out their hard-fought gains. She had to act fast and decisively. "All units, fall back to the main base. Prepare for a final stand. I'll handle the dreadnought." She knew she was taking a huge risk, but there was no other option. With a defiant roar, Eva activated the emergency reserves and prepared a desperate gamble that could either save them all or extinguish their last remaining hope. This was their final stand, a fight to the death against seemingly insurmountable odds. The fate of humanity's presence in this sector rested on the outcome of this battle. The battle was far from over, this was just the beginning of their final confrontation. Chapter 7: Sacrifice and Victory. The Xylos dreadnought loomed over the battered human base, a monstrous shadow against the crimson sky. Its energy cannons charged, promising annihilation. Eva Rostova, alone in her command center, stared at the approaching doom with unwavering resolve. She knew this was her last stand, a suicide mission born of desperation and the fierce will to survive. She had devised a plan, a desperate gamble that played on the dreadnought's weaknesses. It was a high-risk, high-reward strategy that relied on exploiting a design flaw the engineers had discovered during the earlier battle, a vulnerability in the dreadnought's primary energy conduit. The plan relied on an almost suicidal attack to exploit this vulnerability. "Jax," she said, her voice calm despite the turmoil within, "initiate the diversionary attack. I need to buy time." Lieutenant Jax's voice crackled over the comms, filled with apprehension. "Captain, are you sure about this? It's a suicide run. You won't make it back." "Do it, Jax," Eva said, her voice firm. "This is my orders. They'll need all the support they can get." A wave of human fighters, a suicidal squadron, launched a desperate attack, drawing the dreadnought's fire. Their courage was awe-inspiring, their sacrifice profound, as they bought Eva the crucial seconds she needed. She activated the emergency power reserves, feeding them all into the repurposed energy weapon, a powerful but unstable cannon, salvaged and modified. Eva aimed the weapon at the dreadnought's vulnerable energy conduit, her hand steady, her heart pounding. The energy weapon shuddered, threatening to explode, but she held firm. With a deep breath, she fired. A blinding flash illuminated the desolate landscape. The dreadnought's energy conduit exploded in a catastrophic chain reaction, tearing through the vessel's hull and sending it crashing down in a fiery inferno. The base shook from the impact. But it was over. The threat was gone. Eva slumped back in her chair, exhausted, but alive. The victory was hard-won, bought with immeasurable sacrifice. Through the comms, she heard cheers erupting from across the base. But amidst the celebrations, a profound sadness settled over her. The cost of victory was immense, the losses irreplaceable. The survivors had won the battle, but at a heavy cost. So many had paid the ultimate price. There were so many faces she would never see again. As the dust settled and the survivors began to take stock of the aftermath, a profound silence fell over the battered base, broken only by the whispers of the wind across the alien landscape. Humanity had survived, but the scars of this battle would forever remain. The hard-won victory was a testament to the indomitable human spirit, but also a stark reminder of the price of survival. The battle was won, but the war, the fight for survival, was far from over. Chapter 8: Aftermath. The crimson sun cast long shadows across the ravaged landscape of Kepler 186f2. The air, once thick with the stench of battle, now carried the acrid smell of burning wreckage and the metallic tang of blood. The base, a testament to human resilience, stood battered but not broken. The victory had been hard-won, but at a terrible cost. Captain Eva Rostova, her face etched with fatigue and sorrow, surveyed the damage. The battlefield was littered with the corpses of both human soldiers and Xylos, a grim reminder of the brutal struggle. The silence was heavy, punctuated only by the mournful wail of the wind and the occasional sob of a grieving soldier. She walked among the survivors, her gaze lingering on the faces of her fallen comrades. Each lost life was a personal blow, a testament to the courage and sacrifice that had secured their survival. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily upon her shoulders, the knowledge that she had led her people through unimaginable peril and loss. "Captain," Sergeant Miller approached, his voice hoarse, his face grim. "We've secured the base, but the casualties, they're significant. Almost half the team are gone." Eva nodded silently, her eyes filled with unshed tears. She knew. She had seen them fall, brave soldiers who gave their all in the face of insurmountable odds. The victory had come at too high a price. "Medical report," Eva said, her voice barely a whisper. Dr. Ari stepped forward, his face pale. "Captain, we've done all we can, but many are critically injured. Our supplies are depleted." Despair threatened to engulf Eva, but she fought it back. She had faced the impossible and won, she would not succumb now. She had to provide what little comfort and support she could, to lead her people through the grieving and the rebuilding. She addressed her troops, her voice filled with a quiet strength that resonated despite the exhaustion. "We have survived," she said, her gaze sweeping across their weary faces. "We have won against overwhelming odds. We have paid a heavy price. We mourn our lost comrades, but we will not let their sacrifice be in vain. We will rebuild. We will honor their memory by continuing to fight, to live, and to create a future worthy of their sacrifice." Her words, though simple, struck a chord, igniting a flicker of hope in the hearts of her battered troops. The road ahead was long and arduous, filled with challenges and uncertainties. But they had survived the impossible, and they would face the future together, their spirits unbroken, their resolve strengthened by the memory of those they had lost. The battle was won, but the long process of rebuilding was just beginning. The echoes of the battle still hung heavy in the air,